Jess, going by Jess Human. Jess Human is a memoirist, poet, and author of Sis Your Copper. Her work explores the messy, magical space between survival and self-acceptance. Through journal verse and raw storytelling, Jess invites readers to confront shame, reclaim pleasure, and make peace with their humanity. She's a believer in art as a path to healing. Welcome, Jess.
I wanted to appreciate and express gratitude for as much vulnerability that was shared on the stage tonight. I was brought to tears with our last artist. Can y'all do a round of applause for folks like the people they don't even know? I find that writing is a form of my therapy. I won't say it is the only form of therapy, right? I fully believe in real therapy too, and exercise and eating right and lots of things. Like there's lots of modalities of making sure that we are well. But I have found my wellness in writing, and that's what led to my first book, which is my memoir. And it was essentially a place for me to share what I call my shit shows, or places in my life where we're the most messy, and seek nervous system regulation or re-regulation from that dysfunction. And so as I think about even what brought me here to Minnesota, y'all, I'm from Detroit, and I appreciate and love the Blackness in this room, and I appreciated all of your pieces and how we centered Blackness, because Minnesota has a problem with Black erasure. I am from Detroit. It is 79% Black. I am mixed and biracial, but I still feel like I am more Black than some of Minnesota. And that has been a struggle for me, and to find my place here. And so I appreciate the space that has been cultivated, who is on stage tonight, and what stories we are sharing together. And I wanted to, in that same vein, I was like, I'm going to come up with some new pieces, right, and expose myself as a Minnesotan with what I'm doing here. And I didn't do that. And to be honest, I instead want to stick with who I am, so I want y'all to say it with me, be who you are, read from your book, say be who you are with me. Be who you are, being who you are tonight. And I'm going to read from my book, but what is really stuck with me lately is around mental health. And depression and suicide. These are some of the themes that are in my book, in my exploration of my own suicidal ideation. I think that there is this toxic narrative around depression and mental health that is very white-centering and very problematic, and I saw that even with our most recent school shooting here in Minnesota, and how someone grappled with their mental health and took lives as a result. And I think that we sometimes say, oh, that's a white people problem, but that's an all people problem. And so I want to share a story. One, I have a poem. I'm gonna read a couple poems, but I'm gonna really read my story from my book that kind of grounds in what my book is about. And it's called Sis Your Copper. And so, sis, your copper, melanin pristine, head held high. Sis, you are a queen. That's right, our crown, it never falters, even when you feel lack. So what if your daddy wasn't around? Baby, his gift to you was that you're Black, the birthplace of magic and a womanhood so sacred. If you're looking for perfection, baby, just stare at your reflection naked. This world is delusional, taking everything that is ours. But in your mind, body, soul, and spirit, we can heal each and every scar. No, life is not perfect, but God's plan always is. So remember, when things feel too chaotic, that you are always His. No mistake has ever been made, everything in due time. So what if this reality tarnishes your glow? There's always an opportunity to reshine. The copper alchemy is a formula meant to be used as a resource, because in this extractive ass world, you just gotta be putting you first. Sis, you're copper. Your brilliance is inherent. Your worth is defined by you, not a system full of Karens. So pray, honor your ancestors, and hold firm to the intentions you set in motion. Because within Sis, your copper, the alchemy is defined as the nervous system regulation potion. And so that's the premise of the book. And chapter 2 is around the element of mental and emotional health, and it opens with a quote by James Baldwin, which is, "The mind is like an object that picks up dust. The object doesn't know any more than the mind does why what clings to it clings." The shit show. Corey. That was the name of my childhood best friend, and who I believe was my first soulmate. There was my grandma, my sisters, my mom, and then Corey. Our moms used to say he was the Simba to my Nala. The Lion King was our favorite movie. Corey and I would compete over good grades and enjoy playing house. He was the first boy to kiss me, if you know what house means. In his teenage years, he had this swag about him. He was only like 5 foot 5 inches, and for context, I've been over 5 foot 10 inches since I was 15, but Corey was smooth as butter. I'll never forget going over to his house when I was younger and always ending up in his room talking about my life, dreams, and flirting in our I sort of want you to touch me, but I'm scared of the consequences kind of way. I more than loved that boy. I cherished him, and I knew we'd end up together. He was brilliant and funny. He felt like home. At 15 years old, I couldn't articulate that entirely, but I knew that together, Corey and I would conquer the world. In 2002, Corey died by suicide. Corey had gotten 2 different girls pregnant, and his mom, my godmother, Kim, passed away at the same time. Each event contributed to his feelings of hopelessness. These facts also twisted up inside of me, feeling we belonged to one another. It was the betrayal that he had been with other girls. I was angry and devastated, and I didn't know that that single traumatic event would imprint me with one particular response every time things got tough. Escapism. More on that soon. After Corey took his life, his cousin attempted to take hers, and then I tried my first suicide attempt. We were in our teens. We were on the precipice of becoming, with so much more to know and discover about ourselves. It was an exciting time, a time when we should have been thinking about our future rather than imagining a world where we no longer existed. I hadn't really considered suicide before Corey's death. I was experiencing plenty of cognitive dissonance around my racial identity and Joe's. My sexual identity was only beginning to awaken new layers of shame and questioning my acceptance inside of a community that meant so much to me. Things at home were the same as they'd always been with my mom, who was too deep in her own struggles to know whether I had any of my own. I had my grandma, I had God, I had books, and I had schools. Things weren't perfect, but up to that point, I wouldn't have said I was ever suicidal. Corey's death was a critical moment, one with a lasting impact I wouldn't come to discover until later in my life. Corey's death was the pivotal moment in my life where I became so heavy it pushed me to my knees. When the darkness became so vast, it was both blinding and deafening. Whatever pain and confusion I was already feeling in the world where he existed was now doubled without him. He had been an anchor, and now I was adrift. And so I share that excerpt from my book is because we never know whose pain we're holding on to and what markers make an impact on us. And I just want to normalize that we all, regardless of if we're white or black, struggle with mental and emotional health issues and concerns, and for us to seek support, whether it be through community, whether it be through therapy, whether it be through movement or changing your diet. There's all types of medicine that we can be doing, and I hope if you are struggling that you can seek support. And with that, one of the things that I've noticed recently is that I have the privilege of being isolated in Minnesota. I have no social outlet. I have one friend, she's here. I've been here a year and I got one friend. I'm doing some. It's really hard to make friends in Minnesota. If you didn't know that, as a transplant who doesn't have high school friends that they still hang out with, as someone who is Black and from Detroit and not white centering. And so these are things that I've struggled with. And so the thing that I want to close out on, because I recently went to drag bingo at Lush, and my wife, who's also in the front row, was like, you need a social outlet. You feel so much lighter now that you actually socialize. It's called Can You Be My Friend application. Consider this Will You Be My Friend application. Only necessary because my new employment brought me to this somewhat foreign Midwest location. A place I wouldn't exactly call a desirable destination, mostly because I hold little to no winter appreciation. But I digress. I'm just caught wondering, like, Minnesota, what the fuck is that? I mean, it's giving Wisconsin, as my friends back home ask. It's giving a place where people die by police because we're Black. I mean, come on, God, where's Detroit? Take me back. Shoot, y'all. This was supposed to be for happy thoughts. The prospect of new friends is what I had originally sought. So yeah, consider this my new friend matchmaker. I'm looking for millennials who thrift and are a bit of coffee addicted takers.